I'm sure you've heard a lot about this Supreme Court decision recently on Trump's tax returns. So I've seen a lot of headlines that are that are like contradictory. On the one hand, you have people saying, "Oh, this is a big win for the people." On the other hand, you have people saying it's a big win for Trump. Now, which one is it? You will now know. So essentially, there were separate decisions made, both on subpoenas, for financial records. So, on the one hand, you had the New York District Attorney, submitted a subpoena for his financial records, and on the other hand, you also had Congress do the same. And so you had these two decisions, both of which were 7-2, one of them in favor, one of them against. The first one, which was in favor, was the New York State District Attorney. And so this essentially means that he has to give over his financial records to the attorney, to the attorney's office, and we're not going to see those. Pretty much, we're not going to see those. But anyway, so Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the court's two decisions declaring, "In our system, the public has a right to every man's evidence, and since the founding of the republic, every man has included the President of the United States." Okay, so kind of common sense. We don't live in a monarchy, we live in a democracy where no man is superior to another. All right. Makes kind of reasonable sense here. So, yeah. That's really that's all there is really for this case. And then you also have the congressional side of it, which is a bit more controversial, because for the New York investigation, there was already precedent. So you had 74 was Richard Nixon, 97 you had Bill Clinton. Both of them had similar kind of cases where they had ongoing investigations while they were sitting presidents. So as a result, they both went to both cases went to the Supreme Court, and both of them were both of them mandated that they had to give over their records or whatever information was desired by whoever wanted it. Now, so Robert noted that the congressional subpoena was unprecedented. From Washington until now, we have never considered a dispute over congressional subpoena for the president's records. Okay, so essentially they're saying there's no precedent because we've never had Congress directly ask for a president's financial records. Okay, fine. I feel like this is the wrong decision, because on the one hand, you were talking about how he's not above the law, but on the other hand, he's above Congress's subpoena, so he is kind of above the law. And so they haven't dismissed the case totally. They just sent it back to the lower courts, which basically means they're going to try some more like legal clarification. So that, the whole lawyer, the lawyer task force, essentially, all like 12 of them or whatever it is at the moment, they're going to go fight in the lower courts to make sure this doesn't go out. And so even after this, like, lower court stuff, will overwhelmingly likely not see this until after the election. So it's a win for Trump, simply said. And nevertheless, he went on Twitter, kind of playing the victim card here, saying, how it's a Listen, this is all a political prosecution. I won the Mueller witch hunt and others. Now I have to keep fighting in the politically corrupt New York. Not fair to this presidency or administration. Okay, so he got away with basically not having to show the public his financial records that he promised back in 2016 if he'd win. And it's been almost 5 years since then, and he still hasn't done anything. And he's fighting with every single piece of capital he has to make sure this never gets out there. But somehow he's the one being victimized here. Somehow, apparently the general legal community was happy with the outcome. But you also had this one Harvard professor who had an interesting take on it. So his name is, I believe, Noah Feldman. And he kind of makes the point that the court has made itself more powerful relative to Congress. Because let's not remember, guys, these three branches of government are supposed to be equal in their power, and they're supposed to be like the checks and balances. So when one oversteps its reach, the other branch goes, oh wait, guys, get back in line. But in this case, it seems like the Supreme Court has basically said we can decide whether or not the Congress's subpoena is worthy, and so this is kind of the duty of the Supreme Court, but at the same time, like, it is kind of overstepping their bounds in a certain kind of way. Although I must say I'm not like an expert in law. I haven't done much law. I'm not going to claim to be more informed in law than Supreme Justices, but I must say, right, those two people that voted against the first one, and even the second one, those two people, they're frauds, right? Because like there's literally nothing else. You had unanimous agreement on both Clinton and on Nixon, and it basically just says no man is above the law. And somehow these people, Trump's only defense to this, guys, by the way, was a sitting president is above the law, or he isn't subject to common law or whatever the fuck it was. But essentially he's saying I'm king, and two people decided, yeah, that's a fair argument. What the fuck are they thinking? Anyway, so this is what happens when you have an overwhelmingly conservative Supreme Court. I think like it's an L for people, it's an W for Trump, and it's a W for the New York District Attorney. So, I mean, you guys can decide whether it's satisfactory for you. They're not dismissing it, they're just sending it to lower courts for further clarification, which essentially renders it like useless for the election. And then now Biden will go full on Trump, if you want to talk corruption, how about you release your tax returns? And of course, Biden is fraudulent and he's probably corrupt, and Trump is, I don't know what he's hiding. Because he doesn't look very innocent when all you're doing for the last 5 years is trying to hide tax returns that you promised to release when you became president. So, listen, it's an interesting case. It's kind of very mixed messaging. On the one hand, they're saying he's not above the law. On the other hand, he is above Congress, and they're attempting to subpoena and get these records. So it's rather unclear what kind of precedent they've set. I guess now for all future Congress, subpoenas, there'll be a precedent to deem them unworthy. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but yeah, that's basically what really happened. So the people lost because they won't know what happened to him. They won't know what happened to his tax returns. The New York District Attorney won because they have his records now from Deutsche Bank and all those other like financial dealings, and Trump won because he'll have no tax returns available to the public. So take it as you will, guys, but that's pretty much what happened.